أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and thank you for attending tonight's reading. We're reviewing a book written by Imam Ibn Kathir, one of the great Imams from our tradition, and he's written many works, including tafsir, very famous tafsir that many people have benefited from, and so this particular book is about the Anbiya specifically, or the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And tonight, inshallah, we'll be reviewing Prophet Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam. And so Prophet Ishaq is the second son of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. He is the brother of Prophet Ishmael alayhi salatu wasalam. And so just to give a little background, we know that Ibrahim had two wives. His first wife was our mother, Sarah alayhi salam, and his second wife was our mother, Hajar. Even though Hajar was a second wife, she was the first wife to give birth to our father Ishmael alayhi salatu wasalam, which we reviewed that his story last week. We concluded the reading of his story last week. And so this week, inshallah, we'll be covering the second son, Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam. And so we'll just begin the reading. So Ibn Kathir says that the Quran does not give many details of Ishaq's life, alayhi salatu wasalam, but reliable Quranic commentators mention that when Ibrahim, alayhi salatu wasalam, felt that his life was drawing close to an end, he wished to see that Ishaq married. He did not want Ishaq to marry one of the Canaanites who were largely pagans. So he sent a trustworthy servant to Haran in Iraq to choose a bride for Ishaq. And the servant's choice fell upon Rebecca bint Bethuel ibn Nahor, who was the brother of Ibrahim. So Rebecca would be his cousin, since his uncle was Ibn Nahor, the brother of Ibrahim. Ishaq married her, and she gave birth to a set of twins, whose names were Esau, or Elias, or Elias, and Yaqub, or Jacob. It says that there were some ill feelings between the two as they grew into manhood. Esau disliked the fact that Yaqub was favored by his father and by Allah Azza wa Jal with Nabuwah, that Allah Azza wa Jal made Yaqub a prophet. And this caused some jealousy in his brother Esau, or Elias. And this ill feeling became so serious that Esau threatened to kill his brother. And so Yaqub, he made hijrah, or he fled in fear of his life. Ishaq's sons, according to or from the people of the book said, or the Bani Israel said, that when Ishaq was 40 years old, he married his wife Rebecca bint Bethuel during his father's life. They said that she was sterile, or she was unable to bear children. So Ishaq prayed to Allah Azza wa Jal, and then she became pregnant. She gave birth to two twin boys, and the first was called Esau, whom the Arabs called Elias. He became the father of Rome. The second one was called Yaqub, which means Israel, belonging to the people of Israel. Ishaq's death. It says that Yaqub or Jacob came to his father Ishaq and settled with him in the village of Hebron, which lies in the land of Canaan. In the land of Canaan, where Ibrahim had lived. Then Ishaq fell ill and died when he was 180 years old, subhanAllah. His sons Esau and Yaqub buried him with his father Ibrahim al-Khalil in a cave which he had bought. It was said that Ibrahim died at the age of 175, subhanAllah. Now I do have another resource that I was reading into that would kind of help us learn a little bit more about Ishaq and his brother Ishmael and his family in general. And so we'll kind of pick up here because, as I mentioned, not a lot has been mentioned from the Quran directly, but there are some commentators who have given additional commentary about the life of Ishaq, alayhi salatu wasalam, and his children. So picking up, I don't know if you all can see this very well. I'll try to increase the font or the zoom in a bit if I can. Maybe that's a little better. So picking up, it said that the people of the book, when Ishaq was 40 years old, he married Rebecca. And so it's kind of just a summary of what we just read. The people of the book claim that when Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam grew old and his eyesight had weakened, he had a desire for food. So he asked his son Esau to go hunting and bring him some cooked game. Esau asked him to bless the food and pray for him. Esau, a hunter, went out to get his father the meat. Rebecca, overhearing this, ordered her son Yaqub to slaughter 2 goats of his best flock and cook them as his father liked, and bring it to him before his brother returned. She dressed Yaqub in his brother's clothes and put goat skin on his arms and neck, for Esau was hairy while Yaqub was not. When he approached his father with the food, his father asked, "Who are you?" Yaqub answered, "I am your son." When his father finished eating, he prayed for his son to be more blessed brother, and to prevail over them and all people, for Allah Azza wa Jal to sustain him and his children. When he left his father, his brother Esau, who carried out his father's command, entered. Ishaq asked him, "What is this, my son?" He answered, "This is the food you like." Ishaq asked, "Did you bring it in an hour ago and ask me to pray for you?" Esau said, "No, I swear I did not." And he knew his brother had preceded him in this matter, and he was sick at heart. Sister Khadija, this is what I was referring to when I said disguise. The people of the book said that Esau, out of his jealousy, threatened to kill his brother when their father was dead. They also said that he asked his father to pray for him that Allah Ta'ala make the earth good for his offspring and multiply his sustenance and fruits. When their mother knew that Esau threatened his brother Yaqub, she commanded her son Yaqub to go to her brother Laban in the land of Haran and abide with him for a time until his brother's anger had abated, and to marry one of the Laban's daughters. She told her husband Ishaq to command him with that advice and pray for him, and he did. Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam left his family, and when night came, he found a place to rest. He took a stone and put it under his head and slept. He dreamed of a ladder from Jannah, from heaven to earth. Angels were ascending and descending, and the Lord addressed him said to him, "I will bless you and your offspring and make this land for you and for those who come after you. When he woke, he felt joyful from what he had seen in his dream and vowed for Allah's sake that if he returned to his family safely, he would build there a temple for Allah Azza wa Jal. He also vowed to give 1/10 of his property for the sake of Allah. He poured oil on the stone so as to recognize it and called the place Il's house or Bethel, which means the house of Allah, and it was to be the location of Jerusalem later. The people of the book also said that when Yaqub came to his maternal uncle in the land of Haran, his uncle had 2 daughters. The elder was called Leah, and the younger was called Rachel. The latter was the better and lovelier of the 2. His uncle agreed to marry his daughter to him on the condition that Yaqub pasture his sheep for 7 years. After a period of time, his uncle prepared a feast and gathered people for the wedding. He married Leah, his elder daughter, to him at night. She was weak-sighted and not pretty. And not pretty. When morning came, Yaqub discovered she was Leah, and he complained to his uncle, "You deceived me. I was engaged to Rachel, and you married me to Leah." His uncle said, "It is not our tradition to marry the younger daughter before the elder daughter. However, if you love her sister, work another 7 years, and I will marry you to both of them." Yaqub worked for 7 years and then married 7 additional years and then married Rachel. It was acceptable in their time, as described in the Torah, for a man to marry 2 sisters. Laban gave a female slave to each daughter. Leah's slave was called Zilpah, and Rachel's slave was called Bilhah. Allah Azza wa Jal compensated Leah's weakness by giving her sons. The first was named Reuben, after whom there was Shimon, Levi, Judah. Rachel felt jealous of Leah's having sons as she grew barren. She gave her slave Bilhah to her husband, and he had additional children with her, and she bore a son by the name of Naphtali. It says that Leah was vexed that Rachel's slave had given birth to a son, so she in turn gave Zilpah to Yaqub, and Zilpah gave birth to 2 sons, Gad and Asher. Then Leah got pregnant and gave birth to her 5th son, Issachar, and gave birth to a 6th son, Zebulun. After this, Leah gave birth to a daughter named Dinah. Thus Leah had 7 sons from Yaqub. Then Rachel prayed to Allah Azza wa Jal to give her a son from Yaqub. Allah heard her call to her prayer and answered her prayer. She gave birth to a son great and honorable and beautiful, and she named him Yusuf. All of this happened when they were in the land of Haran, and Yaqub was pasturing his uncle's sheep, which he did for a period of 20 years. Yaqub then asked his uncle Laban to let him go and visit his family. His uncle said to him, "I have been blessed because of you. Ask for whatever money you need." And Yaqub said, "Give me each spotted and speckled goat born this year and each black lamb." But at Laban's command, his son removed their father's goat that was stripped, spotted, or speckled, and the black lambs, lest others should be born with those traits. They walked for 3 days with their father's goats and sheep while Yaqub tended to the remaining flock. The people of the book said that Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam took fresh rods of poplar, almond, and plane. He peeled streaks in them and cast them into the water, threw for the goats to look at. The young inside the abdomens were terrified and moved and they were born striped, spotted, or speckled. When the sheep were breeding, he set their faces towards the black sheep in Laban's flock and put the rods among them. Their lambs were born black. This was considered an example of supernatural powers and a miracle. Yaqub had many goats, sheep, beasts, and slaves. His uncle and his sons' faces changed as if they had sheep and goats as if they had sheep and goats, had been stolen from them. SubhanAllah. So we'll stop there and discuss a bit about the story of Ishaq and his family, so that we can leave some time for questions, comments, or corrections, inshallah. So with that, I'll open the floor if anyone would like to say anything or make any comments, inshallah. I will caution us to say, before the first comment, I just wanted to caution and say that much of what we read from the second reading, these are stories from the people of the book, from Bani Israel. So we don't necessarily take this literal or word for word, because we have to consider the source. We take whatever agrees with the Quran and reliable sources, we take from it, and whatever contradicts, we leave it. And so I just wanted to make that point clear, inshallah. Bismillah.
I was just gonna say, these names don't sound Muslim. When you mentioned that, so I was like,
how you doing?
And Netfali, and what are these names? Because they don't sound Muslim. So is this from the Torah or Injil, meaning the Bible, or Psalms? One of them, inshallah. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, inshallah.
Yes. There was another person speaking.
Yeah, sorry, that was me. I apologize. I just wanted to say assalamu alaikum.
Oh, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, I am a Muslim as well, but my Muslim name is Mansoor, just so y'all know.
Mansoor, mashallah. Nice to meet you, brother Mansoor.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, my brother.
Alhamdulillah. So just to go back to the first comment, that the names did not sound Islamic. And so just to keep in mind that, first of all, many of the names have been anglicized now, right? So they wouldn't even say Yusuf, they would say Jacob. They wouldn't say Ishaq, they would say Isaac. They wouldn't say, Ibrahim, they say Abraham. So there is a Arabic equivalence to many of the names. So we should not, just because the names in this particular reading don't sound Arabic, like traditional Arab names, does not necessarily mean that these are not the same people that that were truly the children of Yaqub. Of Yaqub, alayhi salatu wasalam. But the gist of the story is basically, as I mentioned, to give some additional details, some additional information that may not be spelled out in the Quran or in our tradition. So as a general principle, I just want to mention this, that the Quran is not a history book. There's a difference between what Allah Azza wa Jal revealed in the Quran and what was revealed in previous books of Revelation. Many of these stories are according to the people of the book, and you'll see that in this reading, they commonly refer back to the people of the book, and typically this is referring to the Torah. Especially it's referring to the Torah, but it could also refer to the Injil or the New Testament or the good news or the gospel. So part of the wisdom behind why Allah Azza wa Jal did not go into great detail of these historical facts, according to what I've heard from scholars, is that Allah Azza wa Jal gave us what we needed, and the spiritual lessons that we can draw from these histories and from the events in the past. Not necessarily that this is a book of history or book of science, although history is in the Quran, science can be found in the Quran. That is not the purpose of the Quran. And so Allah Azza wa Jal did not, for that reason, these details and facts not typically spelled out in the Quran. So some of this information is taken from previous revelations or previous ummas or communities, such as Bani Israel and such, for example. One thing that I found interesting that I will have to go back and do some more research on was this event that they described where Ishaq requested his son Esau to go and to slaughter and to cook food for him. And according to the Bani Israel, his wife Rebecca ordered, when she heard of this, she ordered her son Yaqub to go and slaughter and cook before Esau returned. I think that that needs to be confirmed because this does not seem like behavior that we would expect. But we also have to keep in mind that Yaqub's sons, you may recall that in Surah Yusuf, his brothers, they did throw him in a well, and they did go back to Yaqub and tell him, alayhi salatu wasalam, that a wolf ate their brother, Yusuf. So, so there could be truth to the story or to this narration, and it could be some wisdom in it. Wallahu alam. But I will, inshallah, try to go back and verify that, this is indeed an accurate reading. Did anyone else hear or learn of anything new that they want to speak on in this particular reading?
I feel like there was a trial of patience with one of them waiting till 7 years to marry the other daughter, which again it was a patient thing to do. That's another thing I got out of it. Is the patience. I mean, 7 years is a long time.
Yes, and we saw the same or similar situation with Musa alayhi salatu wasalam when he fled from Misr or from Egypt, and after killing a man, accidentally killing that man, and he found the two sisters watering their flock. He basically went to their father's house, and the father wanted to marry the daughter to him, and in exchange, he said that Musa alayhi salatu wasalam would work for a number of years as a marriage gift to the father, or to that family, or to the wives, really. That was the mahr that he had, because Musa alayhi salatu wasalam didn't have anything. He just ran from a situation. He didn't have anything to offer. So in exchange, he offered so many years of service to the father to marry with one of his daughters. Actually, he ended up marrying both daughters.
Subhanallah, right.
Yes. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam also had a similar story as this one here. And I have a comment from Sister Khadija. What is the point of knowledge of reading this book with the Quran? Point meaning, what are my thoughts? So again, the reading of this book, and I'm going to go back to the original book, which is Stories of the Prophets. The purpose of reading this book is so that we can get a deeper knowledge, a deeper understanding of the Anbiya, of the prophets of Allah Azza wa Jal, and learn of their trials, learn of their story, to increase in knowledge, and also that we can draw spiritual lessons from their lives. If you study the lives of the prophets, alayhim salam, you find that each and every one of them had an amazing story. And they had amazing challenges that we, to this day, can still draw from. The reason why I tried to find additional information was because the story of Ishaq was very short and not very detailed in the original reading, so I was trying to find additional information. But again, you can't necessarily trust everything you read on the internet, right? So we have to be careful that we don't pick up, I would say, questionable information and take it as absolute truth. We try to stick with reliable sources, and Imam Ibn Kathir is certainly one of those reliable sources or scholars from the past that we take from. But again, if we can find additional information that may or may, that may be beneficial, then we take from it if it agrees with what is reliable. We always start with what is reliable. The most reliable is, of course, Kitab Allah, Al-Quran. And after the Quran is hadith, authentic hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And then after that, we find maybe other stories from previous communities, like Bani Israel, or the people of the book, or the tribe of Israel. So, we don't necessarily rely 100% on what they say. If there's some beneficial information, we can take from it, so long as it does not contradict what is confirmed and reliable. And Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Alaikum salam, Brother Victor. And Jazakallah khair for giving a clear understanding. Wa yaka. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Any other thoughts or questions or comments about tonight's reading? Alhamdulillah. So next week, inshallah, I hope that Imam Raqeeb will be in better health and strength. And inshallah, we will pick up on the Prophet Yaqub, alayhi salatu wasalam, who is the son, one of the sons of Ishaq, alayhi salatu wasalam. Just a last note, one of the beautiful things that I noticed is that you'll see a clear lineage of Anbiya, of prophets, that they're all related in some way or another. And that's something to keep in mind, that lineage and heritage, there's an importance to it. And this is part of the reason why it's important that as we form our own families and marry into each other's families and things of that nature, that we preserve lineage. It's very important, so that, number one, we can preserve our legacy. Secondly, it helps when it comes to inheritance and burial rights. And also, it prevents from people engaging in haram relationships where you may not know that this person is your actual close relative, unmarriageable kin. If they don't know each other's name or lineage or heritage, unfortunately, we've all probably heard of stories where people have married a brother or a sister that they didn't know was their relative because the lineage was not preserved. May Allah protect us from this trial. And so anyway, I just thought that was an important side note that we preserve our lineage and preserve our family names in order to protect ourselves and preserve the sanctity of our families, inshallah. Okay, if subhanallah, yeah, my cousins, I think they married each other, subhanallah. Says, subhanallah, they didn't know. See, happens. Even though cousins is halal to marry a cousin, but in some cases, you know, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of diverting off topic, but you know, there was a time back in the day where, you know, in this country especially, men had more than one family on different sides of town. You may have a man could have had a wife and children in one area and a separate wife and children in another area, and these families didn't know each other, and the children end up going to school and getting to know each other and not knowing that they are brother and sister from the same father. Astaghfirullah. It's yes, it says more knowledge is better than less. All topics is knowledge, subhanallah. Yes, so these are the kinds of situations that can occur when family lineage is not preserved or not made known. This is part of the reason why we have a nikah and we announce to the community that these two people are married. Not only does it show that this relationship is halal and not haram, not only is it that the wife gets her rights, her mahr, and that she was not married out of duress or forced into some kind of marriage, but this is a recognized halal marriage. But it's also so that the offspring know who their family is. And if this brother has more than one wife, the wives and the family should get to know each other. It should not be a secret. Secret marriages, I'm not going to give a fatwa today, but is at the very least makruh. Is something disliked and frowned upon in Islam, that a couple is married and no one knows about this. Sometimes you may hear of people getting married with a very small gathering, 2 or 3 people know it. No one else knows that these people are married. This is something frowned upon, if not outright haram to do it. If you're not in a situation where you can marry and openly declare that this is my wife, this is my husband, there's a reason for that. And maybe you should not get involved in that kind of relationship. I know that in this country, polygyny is illegal, but in some states and in some religions, they permit it. I've heard of Mormons that they're permitted to marry more than one, and even the Yahud, the Jews, they probably do it. And I don't see any reason why Muslims should be any different.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, I think that you should be asking the woman if she wants another wife. I mean, it's up to her anyway. And the other thing is, I hear you saying in this country, but you know what? If we talk about Muslims everywhere around the world, you know, I'm being a new Shahada, I'm being an American Muslim, if you want to call it that or whatever. I don't see their politics better anyway, or their forms of treating their women, or forms of treating the marriage and all that. I mean, I know a lot of Bangladeshi brothers who are like, wow. I look at them and I'm like, sheesh, thank God, I thank Allah, I'm nothing like you, you know? And what I'm saying is, like, you know what? You know, we could talk all we want, but the reality of a lot of this stuff is, you know, who really wants it, you know, in a marriage? You know, I'm not marrying my cousins, nor will I. You know, and I'm not also marrying somebody, which happened a couple months ago. I was offered money and I was like, sorry, I can't do that.
Sorry about that.
You know, I can't do that. Sorry. And then the age of the person was even worse. I was like, are you really nuts? So I mean, it's difference in cultures, man. It's difference in the way people are. And I'm pretty much happy where I'm at. I hope to marry one day. That's for sure. The halal way. I have to look into it more because I'm still trying to figure out how to talk to a sister. That's a joke. That's a joke. You know, and I have to go through the big
Wali.
boss guy. What's it called?
The Wali.
Wali, yeah. Raqeeb,
Yes.
Wali, you know, so all that stuff to me is foreign. Being here, foreign. Being married already is foreign. You know, I was married already, but the Wali is the thing that I'm like more concerned about. Like, what do I have to do? Because, bro, I'm a funny dude, you know, and the problem is that I get nervous and I'll turn it into a sitcom. You know what I'm saying? Which I don't want to. You know,
well, you have to be yourself. You have to be yourself.
I am.
And the sister has to be herself. And you know, it's different because the American tradition of finding a wife or husband is very different from the Islamic tradition of finding a wife or husband. So there is I would say a degree of I'm trying to find the right word. It's just different. Let's just call it different.
No, I get it 100%. I totally get it. I mean, I just get crazy when I look. I just, you know, my crazy Brooklyn self kicks in every once in a while when someone says to me, you know, I married my cousin. I'm like, oh no, that you know, we have a whole state in Alabama that does that. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I don't feel like being mean, but like, don't tell me, you know, things like, because it freaks me out. I mean, it weirds me out. But you know what? I don't have any cousins I want to marry. That's for sure. You know what I'm saying? You know, so the way I feel about it is, look, you know, I might be new. I love Islam. I love Allah. You know, when people tell me fear everything, I don't fear anything. I accept my punishment if it comes. I accept everything that Allah has given me. You know, He's given me something that's really special, and it's life. I'm breathing again because of Him. So I'm not going to stop being me. That's for sure. The things that I feel is that, you know, we put so much emphasis on like saying how different we are, because we know we're different, but all three books are Allah's. You know, everything is Allah. You know, the Quran, the Quran is the last book of Allah, but the Torah is Allah's book. The Bible is Allah's book. You know, and the Quran is definitely the last book of Allah. So, you know, I take a little bit of for everything. I just don't pray to nobody but Allah. And I just, like you said, you want to learn about the prophets? Well, he has lots of them. You know, so we have to read on the prophets. But the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the only one that we really need to follow.
Correct. Alhamdulillah, there's a lot that we can I wish we had more. I wish we had more time to discuss, because these are some important topics. And I know we started off talking about the Prophet Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam, and I kind of diverted off into some other directions. But it's good conversation. It's good to think about. If we had more time to discuss, I always think that marriage and family is such an important topic that we should actually dedicate a specific class or a specific night just to discuss these topics and these issues, because everyone I talk to, or nearly everyone I talk to, anytime this topic comes up, there's a lot of, I would say, thoughts, feelings, issues that people are longing to discuss and to address. And maybe, inshallah, we will do something like that in the near future, inshallah. But I have to apologize. Maghrib just came in Houston, and I don't want to miss the prayer. So please forgive me. Wa alaikum salam. But yes, I will. We'll pick up again next week at 7:30, inshallah, and we'll discuss the Prophet Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, and inshallah, Imam Raqeeb will be leading the class, Allah willing. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.
Walaikum salam.
جزاك الله خير.
وياك.